Hello, our Radiate family. Welcome to our regular Thursday live. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dr. Judy, along with my co-host Jung. He's mostly behind the scene, but he's going to be coming forward today. It's a very exciting topic that we're going to be sharing with you. It is such an honor to have our dear friend, our guest, Nicholas
Giannasi.
Giannasi. I'm sorry. Okay. So much wisdom. And tonight he's going to be sharing with us about the topic of Save the Children. Nick and Jung has been sharing it on social media about what is happening to our children around the world. And we believe that this topic is very sensitive. So viewers, be advised that the information that we are bringing forth is for all humanity to really be prepared, but also, as a parents, we know that our child is near and dear to our heart, and that no parents should go through what these parents have to go through. And together, we as humanity needs to come together and collectively heal through this process. And it is such an honor to have Nick, who has so much to give to humanity with his love, with his compassion, but he's also an advocate for the children. And so without further ado, Nick, welcome and thank you.
Thank you. It's lovely to be on the show again. And I want to take this opportunity to start by acknowledging you guys for, I reached out to you this time and said, do want to get on the show again? Because I enjoy being on the show with you guys. And when you suggested this topic, my heart really nearly exploded, because it's a topic that a lot of people don't want to go near. But, it's such an important subject. If you don't mind, before you ask a question, I'll just share a little bit about my story, how I came.
Please do. Yes.
So in 2011, I met my spiritual teacher, Dr. and Master Jing, and I was presented with universal truths that I was not familiar with, that really moved me. But not only that, I had an example. I'd never seen anybody like Master Sha, who just was so selfless. Okay. And what was fascinating about that was, within a very short time, I was introduced to some of the darkest practices I've ever, I couldn't even fathom what was going on, how dark they were. And I actually made a promise. I made a promise to myself that I would never share it. Okay. Because when you look at my teacher's teaching in the Tao teachings from Master Sha, he says there's three internal treasures: Shen, which is soul, heart, mind; Qi, energy; Jing, matter. There is three external gates: what we see, what we speak, what we hear. We see polluted things, we can lose our soul journey. Why? Because when the news is so harsh, it can close our hearts. Okay. And the heart is the receiver of the soul world, whether it's your own soul or spiritual messages from your spiritual fathers and mothers. So you see, you see harmful images, lose your soul journey. You speak negativity, you lose your qi. You hear negativity, you lose your jing, which is matter. So I said I'd never share it. I'd never share it. And for years, I tried sharing it with people who, because I also believe that if somebody asks the question, they're ready for some level of the answer. Okay. So I would try and drip feed people what I believed was going on with the research that I'd done. But I never shared the actual dark practices that I was aware of. And I got introduced, I don't know if you're familiar with Mark and Kathy O'Brien's story. So Kathy O'Brien was, and I was introduced by someone who was a follower, who still is a devotee of Master Sha as well, which is funny, interesting. And he's knew that information 10 years before me, and he knew Mark and Kathy O'Brien. Kathy O'Brien was brought up in one of these families and was brought up in a mind control program. She was in the MK Ultra mind control program. Where I was brought up in Liverpool, I've shared it before, very loving family, but surrounded by drugs and violence. Okay, you've seen a lot of fighting, seen a lot of things that were wish I'd never saw. But when I heard what they did on that level, it was something my mind couldn't even comprehend. So I decided I'd never share that information. The reason I've been more and more vocal now is because I always try and observe my environment and what life is presenting me. And 2020 really has been about 2020 vision. There has been, I mean, some of the information that I've been aware of for 10 years that I promised I'd never share is out. People are talking about it. And the reason why I'm being vocal now is because if you don't have a spiritual foundation, this information is either going to damage you and close you off to the world, or it can be used as fertile ground for growth, expansion, and compassion. So I still think that, you know, you guys are called Radiate Up. It's about positivity. We can make this podcast a positive and empowering podcast, and that's what I want to do today.
Wonderful, wonderful. That is the key. And like you said, you know, when you were reaching out and when you were sharing, I believe it was through heaven's guidance that this information needs to be shared, because when the news comes out to humanity, there's going to be a lot of people who's going to be acting out of anger. There's going to be a lot of people who's going to be just, they don't know how to handle it. They'll probably go into an emotional distraught to see the extent of the information that will be coming out to these children. You know, I've followed, you know, the Underground Railroad Foundation, and to watch them, you know, help these children, you know, from one parent losing their child and then reaching out to the Underground Railroad Foundations. And from that one child, they found another 20, 50 children in the same, you know, scenario. And can you imagine as a parent when, you know, children go missing, to be able to find your child alive is one thing, but to know what has been done to these children is another. And so I like you to touch base on, you know, what humanity is going to see, because it's out there. The information is out there. It's starting to surface. I'm seeing it more and more. And I don't think that a lot of people are aware how deep this situation is. I mean, over 800, I believe close to 800,000 children missing a year. That's a lot of children.
I don't like to speak in absolutes. So I'm not saying this is an absolute fact, but I'm not a gambling man, but I would almost guarantee that that number is nowhere near the amount of children, because you're talking about children that go missing. But there's actually so many children that are being purposely born into these families and these circles. And I think it's important to touch on a little bit so people understand the foundation of what we're dealing with. Okay. What a lot of people don't get their head around is that every aspect of the mainstream media, the people who create the medical system, the scientific community, Hollywood, every branch of information that we're subject to is purposely created by an occult. They are a secret few that are very spiritual. Okay, people have got to understand this. They cut us off intentionally from spirituality. So, you know, you look at the scientific model, it has over time, and it's making a change now because we're in a universal change. I believe there's a universal awakening happening now. And the scientific community is definitely having some breakthroughs when you look at quantum physics and appreciating the information as well as just energy and matter. But science, for a long time, there's more atheists now than ever because they just believe in what they see, energy and matter. That's it. So they're trying to disconnect us. And I don't like using the term they or them because we're all in this together. My vow is to save all sentient beings. Okay. And the people who do these practices, they're a part of that. I'm here to save them. My message is not to hate, to resist, to fight. That's not my message. Okay. It's about becoming conscious and uniting. And so we can stop these practices. But basically, when I say they, I'm talking about the people who believe what they believe, who some people call them the 1%, the cabal, who manipulate humanity. They believe that we are the zombies. They don't believe they're human. A lot of people don't know this neither. They believe they carry a genetic code so that they can control humanity. This is what the royal families are. Okay, they believe that we are just docile, stupid fools. Right? We are just food. Just as many humans treat animals, it's the same for us. And we are farmed. We are farmed for a number of things. Okay, we are farmed for our negative energy. They pray to dark entities. We pray to benevolent entities. We've just been talking about Guan Yin. We pray to Guan Yin, Buddha, Jesus, whatever. They pray to dark entities, okay? When they do, and this is where I'm going to share some detrimental information. It can, so please stay in the heart here. Don't let this close your heart. They believe that the fear from prepubescent children is a nectar for these negative entities. And these negative entities feed off the fear. And then there's other rituals that we can touch on in this interview as well. They basically have practices where they drink the blood of the children. And this is one of the most expensive drugs and currency on the earth right now. It's called adrenochrome. Okay, and are you familiar with adrenochrome? Adrenochrome is when the human body is about to die through trauma, it releases everything it's got. It's not just adrenaline. There's many different, the pineal gland, many different chemicals are released into the body to try and save the body's life. So when they have prepubescent fear, that it's so pure. Okay, it's so pure that they drink it and they get all these youth benefits, these fountain of youth, longevity, and they farm the collective. You look at us. Take a step back and look at humanity. We are struggling with our finances. We haven't got time to think. We just watch violent movies, Netflix. We just want a beer after work. We're sick. We're dumbed down. We're getting hit with incoherent frequencies. There's poison in our air. There's fluoride in our water, which calcifies our pineal gland. There's glyphosate and other chemicals in the soil. We are just getting bombarded. And then when they put this fear media out and they watch everyone put masks on and everyone do as they're told, they just laugh. They think it's hysterical. So we are just farmed, and they don't see themselves as being human. Now, I'm going to share something that might add a little bit of understanding for what they go through, okay? Many of them are born into these families, okay? If you are born into a family who's Christian, you're a Christian. If you're born into a Buddhist family, generally speaking, you'll be a Buddhist. You believe what you're conditioned to believe. These elites, when they have kids, I've also heard that many of them have huge sperm banks, and the sperm banks carry empathy is taken out, actual empathy is taken out of their genetics. So when they have these kids, they're exposed to trauma from day one, but they don't carry empathy within them. Now, they believe that empathy is humanity's weakness. I've just made a video on this, believe it or not. Because why it's our weakness is we are so emotionally attached to want to relieve suffering, or somebody, just off somebody's facial expression, we can get so triggered. You know, are they being angry? Are they judging us? Are they this, that, and the other? They look down at us for that because they don't have empathy. They believe they're more superior because of this. They can create events like 9/11, and it's they have no empathy towards it. Now, if you imagine being born blind and somebody said to you, "What's a color?" You have no idea what a color is. So it's like saying to these, do you know what empathy is? They don't know what empathy is. So that's one way that we can be compassionate towards them. But this occult, everything, every news report you watch, every movie, specific things are released at specific times. There is numerology involved. Everything is evolved. It is created to where specifically to program our subconsciousness. And if we have that foundation, we realize that everything we're watching, everything we're putting in us is intentional and a spiritual practice to them. I'll give you an example. I'll give you a couple of examples, right? Before I explain the difference between spiritual practice, Shulian, and the dark occult practices, I'll give you an example of a kid's film, right? There's a kid's movie called Tangled. It's about Rapunzel. In that movie, Rapunzel is kidnapped, held hostage, and she's got magic hair. Okay, so the kidnapper brainwashes her that she loves her and that the world's a dangerous place. We get told the world's a dangerous place, and it's safe indoors. And this kidnapper, when she combs Rapunzel's hair, she absorbs the essence of Rapunzel and she has youth. She looks beautiful. But when she doesn't get her fix, she goes straight back to her biological age, even more so. It's like the karma catches up with you. So this is why we're seeing so many celebrities, because I believe there's a benevolent force right now that is taking down this elite few. Um, if you look at these celebrities that have looked young for so long, who are now not having this adrenochrome, this blood, they literally look like they've aged overnight 50 years. Now, just touch on Shulian. My teacher, there's a beautiful DVD called An Interview with Master Shah and Master Guo. It's Master Shah interviewing his teacher. And they go deep into what Shulian is. Shulian is the totality of the spiritual journey. And fundamentally, it is to save others or the greater good selflessly. And you save so much that you lose yourself. You lose your false self. You lose the ego. And you reach Min Shin Jianxing, which is enlighten the heart to see your true self. Okay. When you enlighten the heart and lose your false self, you see your role in nature, your true role in nature. You melded your Yuanshan, which is your original soul. Okay. And this is through selfless service and removing the ego. Now, if you look at the occult, which practices a satanic practice, which is actually Satanism. They worship the star Saturn. In Satanism, it's the opposite. They worship the false self. They worship the ego, and it's all about what they can take. Shulian is about what we can give. Their practice is what they can take. So, for example, you want to practice longevity from a melding with Tao perspective. It is selflessly serve and uplift your Shen Jing, or your essence, uplift it, refine it. So you move from matter to energy to spirit to emptiness to Tao, which is the source. Okay. Their practice is to take it, take the chemicals and the life essence, unfortunately, from children. So that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, so it's almost like the concept of service to others and service to self. There's this
Correct.
two concepts that's running in parallel. But
it's the complete opposite. One
right.
is mind, left brain, and serve the self and the ego, worship the ego, and the other one is to move into the heart.
Yeah.
Let's just kind of give a brief update to those who just tune in. We're talking about Save the Children, and that the information that Nick and Jung and I are sharing is what we want to prepare humanity and our viewers to what is to come. There are some informations that are coming out about children. Nick was touching base for our viewers who are not familiar with adrenochrome. This is a ritual that the power to be, who have the money, who are taking these children, and we're talking about children. Earlier in our discussion, I was saying that about 800,000 kids go missing every year in the United States alone. And Nick was saying that this number was even greater than that. And there's some who were born into the family who were purposely being sold to these kind of rituals. And so you can look up the word adrenochrome and how it's such a hot market for a lot of celebrities, for a lot of people who want to stay youthful, but that the way that they are extracting this is very, very crucial to the children. It's very disheartening to see. So this is about saving the children. We want to prepare our viewers and humanity for what is to come. And our goal is to bring more love, peace, and harmony to the world so that we can save our children. But our mindset has to be prepared for what we are going to see. And are we ready? And what are we going to do when that information comes forth? So Nick is sharing information of what makes these people, their mindset of why are they doing this, and how we can overcome that by having more love, more peace, and more harmony. Did we just lost Nick? So while Nick comes back on, we just want to make sure that our viewers is aware that to save our children is that we, as a parent, as an adult, have to understand what this hashtag is all about. And so do more research. We're giving you information so that you can be prepared what is going to be coming in the future. But as a parent, we love our children near and dear to our heart, and we want to protect them from all the harm. And because of that, we want to bring this information to humanity to really come together and work together how we can save these children. And one of the organizations that I love to follow is the undergroundrailroad.org. You can see how they are really working hard to help save these children. And Nick and Jung are really good at these information. So I'll let Nick further continue the informations. Nick, thank you.
That's okay. No, thank you. Again, another thing, if you want to contribute to this, there is charities, but the best thing we can do right now, please forgive me, someone just tried to call me. The best thing that we can do right now is open our hearts. We have to understand how the field works. If we get this information come to us and we close our heart, we are becoming more mind dominated. we are going to get angry, okay?
Mhm.
And we are going to want to fight, and we're going to get, and I'm telling you, if you move into that space of wanting to hate these people, they still win. The practices still happen. You get me? We have to mature and grow out of what we're experiencing, because there's a universal process happening. We're either going to move with it or we're not. It's as simple as that. I've always had a lot of respect for the Vietnamese Zen master called Thich Nhat Hanh.
Mm-hmm.
Thich Nhat Hanh has always shared very, very harsh stories. Okay, stories that are, but because they come from such a beautiful place, they're so sad, but they open your heart. You see.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very different if someone comes and says, you know, this is what they're doing and this is what we've got to do and blah, 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 blah. It's so aggressive in its approach
Right.
that
And
yeah, sorry, go on.
I was just saying that, an eye for an eye. That's been done so many
Correct.
times. We repeated that over history. And it's causing us to repeat. And I like this one saying. It's actually from the Avatar, The Last Airbender. If people watch those, it's a really good cartoon show. Exposes about spirituality. But one line was really good is revenge often poison yourself too. So when you take revenge on your enemy, it's a double poison, because you're poisoning your enemy, but at the same time, you're poisoning your heart, your soul too. So when we see these information coming out, and people are going to realize that there's a lot of trauma that these kids and all these kids are missing, a lot of people who are not ready, who don't see the spiritual side of it, they're gonna go into that state of mind for like the idea, the concept of getting justice through revenge, right? Doing the same thing what they did to the kids, right? That we should be doing that back to them. But by doing that, you're poisoning your mind and your heart. And so the cycle repeats itself. You're no longer better than them. So I think that's what you're leading on to, right? That
well, that's
when you step over that.
Too, what Nick was saying, it makes total sense of having our heart open, but understanding that they are trying to strip us away from our spirituality and creating this less of a humanity, more of a robotic type, right? Because they themselves don't have the empathy within their genes, and they can't have the feeling that we human have. The emotion isn't there. So the pain and suffering that they inflict on these young children, we as human beings who have the compassion, who have the empathy, will feel sorrow and pain for the children. But because they don't have it in their gene, even if we get mad, even if we want to take revenge, they can't feel the difference. They wouldn't know what that is like. So, I love the idea that Nick is saying, open our heart and be prepared and practice the loving and compassion. But I'm just going to say, when I first saw these pictures and the videos, I was heartbroken. I was like, the trauma that these children were going through is just, it's unbelievable. You cannot watch it. You cannot fathom that human being can do this to another human being, especially to children.
Yeah. And I feel exactly the same way. And just like Nick, I'm really aware of this that this has been going on for quite some time now, over 10 years. But the thing is, when you see the pictures coming through, your heart flutters. Things start rolling in my mind, it's like, man, these people, we should, there needs to be justice. These people don't deserve to live. All those cross my mind. Even though I'm well aware that this is happening, and I understand the whole, forgiveness. But it's when you're faced with the reality of what's happening, it's really hard to forgive.
Thank you for your honesty, for coming out and saying that, because it's true. I'm not going to sit here and be this spiritual guy who has never gone through that. You know, my whole family quick to react. You know what I mean? Come from a family of fighters, and you know, that's the first place I went when I heard about this. But I'll never forget one thing. Okay, the guy who introduced me to this, when my mind was blown, I'll never forget. I mentioned George Bush Jr. Okay, and he said something to me. He cut me off as soon as his name popped up. He said to me, and I'll never forget it. He said, "Every time I look at George Bush Jr., I can't help but want to cry." Okay, and I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because I know what his childhood would have been like." And you know what? For your viewers who are watching this and they have no idea, right? I'm going to share some of Kathy O'Brien's experiences being brought up. She wrote a book called Transformation of America. She said when she was 2 years old, by the age of 2, her father used to brag to his friends that her milk bottle, she never drank milk, her milk bottle was semen.
Oh.
Her and this is the level it goes to, guys. They have private hospitals. They do surgery. Kathy had plastic surgery on her vagina of the devil's face.
Oh.
I don't know whether you know about the red shoes. You know, the red shoes are made of baby skin. We are dealing with things that our minds can't comprehend. You said your heart flutters. My heart flutters saying it. But the reason I'm saying it is because I'll share a story from Thich Nhat Hanh. Thich Nhat Hanh did a retreat after Vietnam. And there was a lot of post-traumatic, real traumatized soldiers there. And he said it was a very difficult week-long event. He said on one of the last days, a gentleman stood up on stage. He'd been quiet the whole time, and he cried his eyes out. And he said, "My platoon got wiped out when I was in Vietnam, and I wasn't thinking straight. And I got some food, and I put explosives in the food, and I put the food out, and I wanted the Viet Cong to eat the food and blow up and die." He said when he put the food out and stepped back and hid and watched, a nursery, kids came out of a nursery, and a few kids under 5 years of age got the sandwiches, and he watched them blow up and die, right? And this guy said, he said, "I've only ever told my mother, and my mother put her hands over her ears and said, 'Please, no more, don't tell me.'" Now, Thich Nhat Hanh said the next day, he went to see this gentleman, and he said, "What's been done has been done," right? He said, "But there are many kids that need your help in America alone. You can dedicate your life in the present moment to helping children." And this guy found purpose in his life. He did that. He now helps kids in whatever way he does. So it's one thing to give people information and then just leave them. It's another to point them in the direction of a solution. We need to realize that we are living in such a unique time in history. All of our ancestors have pointed to this time as the great time of change. Our future generations are going to look back and say this was the great time of change. And this is where we need to be empowered, okay? One of their greatest defenses is because humans can't fathom what they do. So straight away they go, "Bullshit." Excuse me for swearing, but that's the first thing they do. "You're a conspiracy theorist. Where's the evidence?" Do you know what, guys? If you research the tweets by, I wrote a couple of names down, okay? Rainn Wilson, Courtney Cox, The Rock, Patton Oswalt. These are celebrities that have, and John Legend's wife. These are celebrities very openly talk about what they do. Some of them have got images on Twitter of them biting the back of babies' heads. Some of them are admitting to being pedophiles. Okay, it's not hard to find. Research Pizzagate. Some people say Pizzagate is just a conspiracy. How can you say that? There is the images, there is the artwork on the wall. I mean, just do some research. I've said to a lot of people, do you think I like knowing this information? I'd rather this all be this be false. I'd rather not know about this and it's not. But you know, I haven't searched for this. This is another reason why I think it's a part of my journey. I got introduced to this without looking for it, which can mean two things to me. One is I have a role in trying to help in any way end it. And another one is I have a karmic connection. And I work every day on being forgiven if I've ever taken part or contributed to any of that suffering in any way. So the reason I share those stories and let the listeners understand what we're dealing with, and I'm telling you now, I could tell you stories worse than that. Worse than that. When you look at Lady Gaga, are you familiar what the Wilson sign means?
No.
Are you? Do you? I'm going to ask you. Do you want me to share it? It is very, very detrimental information.
No, I think these informations eventually will come out, and it's better people get drip informations. So if they can hear this, then they'll be consciously aware, and they'll be mentally prepared for it. So I'm all for it.
You seen the movie Castaway?
No.
Half of it.
Tom Hanks in the movie Castaway. He's stuck on a desert island. He has a ball, a Wilson ball, and with red ink, he puts a picture, his handprint on the ball. So you see this red face. He draws a face. It's a red face, and the head is the fingers like this pointing up, and he talks to it. Now, before I knew what I'm about to share, I actually thought that symbolized the devil, because they put symbolism everywhere of the devil. Since this COVID, that image was worn on Ellen DeGeneres' hoodie. Jay-Z wore it on his hoodie. Lady Gaga performed at a awards ceremony, and she had a full dress on, and the red dress that come over her face and up her head, same as the symbol on the ball. Ben Stiller did a video, and in the background he had that image of the Wilson hand on the wall. So first thing you got to think of is, why would they all want this sign? Why? Do you know what it symbolizes? One of the practices they do to terrorize the children enough to get as much adrenochrome as they can. It's hard to even say it. The final act is they skin the child and bring the skin up over its head before they kill it and drink the child's blood. This is what we're dealing with. And when they give these symbols, they're letting everyone know, I'm in this club. It's you research the black eye. The black eye is the Pope. Everyone's got the black eye. It is, I have chose the violent path, the left brain violent path. The Queen, Prince Philip, all these cabal, they all have the black eye. So this is so harmful. Okay, this is so detrimental. And this is why I say, if you have a spiritual practice, this is the difference with what a spiritual practice does. This is what Buddhism has taught me. Okay, Buddhism has taught me, and I'm going to use Thich Nhat Hanh again. Thich Nhat Hanh shared a story. I shared this in my group last week. Thich Nhat Hanh shared a story. He heard that in Thailand, a ship had Thai pirates come on board. They raped and murdered the women, and they sexually abused this young 10-year-old girl. She saw her parents get killed and what have you. She jumps overboard and kills herself. Thich Nhat Hanh said when he heard that story, he went into anger, okay? And he said, as a monk, he can't do that. So what he did was, and this is, please listen to this part, very important. This is courage, guys. This is compassionate courage. he went back to his hut, and what his meditation was, he meditated on being born into these Thai poor villages, and he lived every step of the life of the Thai pirate. He saw how he was abandoned by his parents, how the only people who he looked up to were the pirates, how he felt like the governments had given up on them, and they were just survival. And when they jumped on this ship, the young pirates were afraid, and they were just doing what they felt they had to do. Okay, by doing that, he was able to feel compassion for the pirates, and he said, if we don't change this, so many more kids are going to be born and be pirates if we don't change it. So people might think, so what do we do, Nick? You're telling us all this stuff. What do? We come together. It really is that simple. We don't come together and fight. We come together and say no more. And let me tell you, it's happening. Yin yang arise together. This, what I've been sharing, has been happening in the shadows for a very long time, with only a few people coming out and exposing it. What this global awakening, I never knew what this awakening was going to look like. I've been sharing, I've been traveling around Australia, and bear in mind, a lot of people don't know this. I was motivated to travel around Australia because I knew this information. When I found out what they do, I said, if I don't do something, if I don't share with humanity a solution, then how can I live with this information and not do something? If they're doing that level of spiritual practice, and they're very spiritual, by the way, everything they do is a spiritual practice. Mm-hmm. I need to do my part, and that was what motivated me to go around Australia. So let this information motivate you to save more, choose love, work on yourself, open your heart. You with me?
Yeah, totally.
By uniting is the key. We need to come together and grow out of this, because light is being shone on what these practices are.
Yeah,
this is cut out. I never thought I would see the day that this information was out to the masses. For me, knowing this for 10 years, it is mind-blowing.
Yeah, I mean, what I want to add to this too is that it's okay to feel angry. That's perfectly normal, right? It's okay to feel like you want to hurt somebody and all of that, because we have those energies. We have that frequency to feel love, feel hate and anger. But what are we going to do at the end of the day? Well, how are we going to project that out to the world? When we see these informations, we see this coming into reality, or we just going to forget about it and cut off, have that cognitive dissonance and just forget everything, that everything's fake. But when it's coming at us like this, and I know Save the Children, it's hashtag everywhere. It's gone to the point where people are taking notice in Los Angeles. There's protests. They even gone down to CNN headquarters and protest inside the building, but that wasn't reported. So it's going. But the thing is, how do we?
In the UK,
right? How do we break this cycle?
In the UK, they're marching outside the BBC because they've got all these statues.
Yeah.
Of adults, be standing behind naked children. Yeah. My sister and my friends, they're doing a march possibly this weekend, I think it is. They paid for a plane to fly over with Saved Our Children banner. They've all got T-shirts. I mean, this is getting out, and the people are good. I've been traveling around Australia. I spent 2 years traveling around. I never met a bad person. People are good. We need to understand we are a compassionate species. I'm so proud to be a human being. So when this comes out, it's not about saying, I told you so. That's mine. That's ego. That's left brain. It's about saying, I have obviously known this for a reason. Give me a hug. I'm here for you. Okay. Let me just answer your questions. I'm not here to say I was right or whatever.
Yeah.
Just be there for each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, when people kind of see this, it's gonna be. I would see it as being very dramatic when the information comes out, and it's getting as more information is coming out. There's more pictures coming out, but people still have that choice. We live in a world that's free will, right? We have a choice. of what we want to take. So I was saying that it's okay to feel these emotions, right? But at the end of the day, what are you gonna do about it? You know, are you gonna take that and hurt somebody, or you can project that and bring positivity and real change? Because we're given, humanity is given an opportunity to really see everything, all the deep rooted ugliness that's inside our, you know, all of our humanity's experiences for all of history. Now we have an opportunity to take that and mold it to something else. So that way we don't have to repeat all this, you know, horrific things that has happened. You know, like in the Mayans back then when they sacrificed Charons. In other countries too, like in ancient times, that's, you know, the practice has been there for a long time. It just went underground. And people forget that. You know, it's like, oh, we live in a, you know, civilization, high-tech society now. We should be able to see everything. Science, we're science-based. But we haven't gotten it out of it. All of this is still going on behind our scene. It's been around for a long time.
It's actually not. But when it is underground, I'll give you that. But when David Icke actually hit the nail on the head in his last Rose Icke interview, he said, they program our subconscious. Okay, so if it's a commercial, let's say, you might be walking down the aisle and you might be drawn to a product and you don't know why. Subconscious. Okay, but what he said was, and he hit the nail on the head, if what's in our subconscious gets brought into our conscious mind, we can't not see it. And then we realize it's actually always been right in front of us. They have always, another thing, they believe in karma and they believe in God. They try and disconnect us to God, but they believe in God, because when you look at like Sammy Davis Jr., he said to Eddie Murphy, you know, Satan is as powerful as God, right? You look at the suffering in the world. This is the conversation that they had. Eddie Murphy shares it. But what he's saying there is he's acknowledging that there's a God, and he's acknowledging that God is powerful. You get me? So even though they're doing what they do, they believe that God is God. So, and they're trying to keep us away from God, but they put it in plain sight. They believe in karma, you see. This is why when we, when they show us something in Hollywood, what they do is the practices is Satanism, okay? Satanism is an invasion of the truth. So whatever you're being told, it's an invasion, okay? Now, if you look at the mainstream media, which they tell us is the truth, that's the lie. They tell us that Hollywood is the fiction. That's the truth. What they share in Hollywood is the truth. So they show everything that they're doing, and we allow it, you see. And what they believe is, they believe that by doing that, they're not going to be caught up in karma, because we've consented to it. You look at this coronavirus vaccine, okay? Put everyone in fear. This is a trauma tactic the CIA found with MK Ultra. When the body and the mind is in trauma, whatever information is presented to them, there's not just a memory of it, there's a physical, emotional response to it. Easy one is, where were you at 9/11? Everyone remembers where they were in 9/11. It wasn't just a mind thing, it was a physical trauma going on. There's a guy you can check out on Google, type in Harley Davidson t-shirt guy, okay? It's something like that. This guy, the day after, or just after the second tower hit, I think, or possibly the day after, it was the most anyone had ever watched the news. He's broadcasted across the news. He's got a Harley Davidson t-shirt on. They go to him and he says, I was 5 blocks away, and when the plane crashed and it fell down, he said, to me, it looked like the heat of the fire weakened the structure and then it pancaked down on itself. Now, that official story was not released by the engineers for 6 weeks. Exactly the same story. What's happening there? When everyone's in a state of trauma, they seed your subconscious with this one guy saying exactly what he's told to say, so that when the actual, when they release it into the news, somewhere you've already heard it. You've already heard that. So with like this coronavirus, for example, you put people in fear. Fear puts us into the reptilian brain. The reptilian brain is fight or flight survival. It's just as simple as that. You look at a lizard, what's it do? It's always looking out for danger. Okay. So when we're in that state, anything we are told is just programming our subconscious and our body. So then what we do is problem, reaction, solution. They create a problem. They tell us they wait for a reaction. They say this is the best solution. The solution is what they wanted to bring in the first place. But we consent, you see. We're tricked into consent. So when we're tricked into consent, they believe they don't get the karma.
Yeah, I mean,
they believe the karma.
Yeah. What you're saying, it's very reminiscent to my readings of the Law One, and I'll always refer to this material because
I'm reading it right now. I'm listening to the Lord.
That's so awesome. Yeah, the material is very universal. It really draws all the philosophies and religions, and it really connects the dots for me. But we really live in a free world. We get to decide because this is our world. But for them to infiltrate, they found a way to infiltrate and to get us to do what they want to do, and it's basically black magic. But they cannot impose their will on us. That's why when they do something, they always present it to the informations, whether it's through Hollywood or through CNN, NBC, Fox, or whatever media that you want to watch. Some of that information, if not all, are presented to you, but they tweak and distort it in such a way that you can't see through it because of all the programming from a very young age, right? The TV's been around for a long time. So with this, people start to see it, but they don't take action. By not taking action, you have already consented. So it's like the mask, right? They present the mask to you, and they, in a situation where it's, you're in fear mode, but if you don't do anything about it, then you already consented that you're going to follow them. That's why the whole idea of the sheep following, the shepherd, being directed where, they point left, your head, everyone's head point left. They point right, everyone's head point right. It only takes one person, one sheep, to follow a line to break all the sheep out. So that's what we're kind of doing, is presenting these informations to show you that every single individual person has a free will. They have a choice. Whether they would align to whether service to self or service to other, or stay put in the middle. But when you stay put in the middle, you give your power to other people to decide for you.
And I agree, but I think karma still plays a role in that.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you get this information, you're aware of it, there's a spiritual reason for that. And if you don't get it, there's a spiritual reason for that. This is why I've waited 10 years to share any of this. I've known this for 10 years. If you push somebody or push something on someone, all you're doing is pushing them away if they're not ready. My Buddhist teacher says, I just answer questions, because this is why I like you guys. You give me a platform to speak, but also the bigger the question, the bigger the answer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, even if I teach, I say, have you got any questions? And they don't have any questions. That's okay. I can't share. We'll just do a practice. But if you ask big questions, you get big answers. There's things that, I can't share unless I get asked. But people are waking up right now. And when you said it only takes one sheep, it doesn't, because if you watch the Matrix movie is amazing. Last time I watched it again, one insight I got was, my family have always been supportive. So I'm not talking about my family, but I know people who've had this experience. Even if somebody steps out of the Matrix and sees what's going on, right? If they try and share it with their loved ones, their closest family members and friends, if they're still in the Matrix, in the movie, anyone who's not out of the Matrix is an agent for the Matrix. They defend the Matrix. So what happens is, even if they love you, they support you, Nick's mad, he's lost the plot, because they're so afraid. They protect the Matrix. Again, I'm not talking about myself here. My family have been very supportive. They've always trusted me, but I know people who've done that. What it takes is it takes people to stand up. And this is why I can't encourage enough to try and empower people. The safest place to be is out in the open, guys. If you, it just, you don't have to be righteous. You don't have to defend your point. If someone watches this and comments underneath, says, Nick's crazy, blah, 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 you won't hear me trying to defend myself. I don't want you guys to defend me. We're nothing to defend, okay? You don't have to defend your point of view. Just hold that this is what's true for you. Because all we're doing is planting seeds. And over time, just like they do, it's working. It's using their technique against them. You know, the Harley Davidson t-shirt guys, seeds planted. Next minute when it comes in, it's like putting on an old pair of jeans. They already fit to your knee.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're already familiar with them.
Yeah, I totally
So
agree with you.
we just answer questions, but the more people, what's happening now is the collective consciousness is moving in an awakening state. Now, why it's important we move into the heart is because as the heart field expands, if we can all harmonize on these truth vibrations and fundamentally love, our teacher talks about Da'ai, greatest love. The greatest love is not human love, guys. You look at human love in the world, it's not Da'ai, it's not greatest love. It's conditional love. You only love people who love you or who are nice to you. You know, can you love these people who are doing these practices? That's Da'ai. Da'ai is no conditions. It's just one pure love. And as we move, this is why internal practice is so important. If you work on yourself, you are a part of the whole. You opening your heart and being compassionate is only contributing that to the field. And as more and more people do that, what happens is people who are not aware of this information, they can't put their finger on what's going on, but their heart space is opening. What happens when your heart's open? You are a receiver for more spiritual information. Then, you know, I heard a great presentation from a Welsh guy. I can't remember his name. He talks about fasciases, right? So long subject. It's a 6-hour presentation. He talks about in all of these, once you see them, they're everywhere. They're in the White House. They're in every single courtroom. They're everywhere. These fasciases, he believes, are used as like harmonics. And this is how in the Ark of the Covenant and things like that, they used harmonics to beat their enemy. And this is a part of what the 5G is used for when it's used against us. Why I'm sharing it, what gave me an insight was he said in one of the descriptions of what they were, it says that it's called the God Killer. Please forgive me for even saying that. Now, obviously, it's not going to kill God, but the description is it's to kill the faceless. Now, my insight that I got from that was, I believe they use incoherent frequencies in the EMF field, not just to keep us dumbed down, but they keep the soul world, benevolent souls away through resonance. So as we harmonize together and move into love and coherent frequencies, you love my heart and soul, we then love all humanity. What happens? We join hearts, the physical world, souls, the spiritual world together, and we bring universal love, peace, harmony to the world.
What a beautiful summary of it. We're at the top of the hour and you did it so beautifully. And just to kind of recap, really, when we say save the children, the information that will be coming forward to humanity is to help plant the seed in your subconscious mind that when it comes into reality, go into your space of love and open your heart and really understand and have compassion. And Nick said it beautifully, you know, when we come together and we raise our frequency to the frequency of love. And Dr. David Hawkins wrote a great book called Power versus Force, talks about frequency and that how when we're in fear, in shame, in guilt, we're vibrating at a low frequency, but we vibrate at love, that's 500 or above. And Nick is saying that when we come from our heart, when all of us come together, humanity come together and radiate that heart, the Heart Institute shows that our heart electromagnetic field is 60 times greater than our brain. Imagine if 10 of us come together, we will make this world a better place. So, Nick, thank you so much for your wisdom and your love. Everybody can find Nick on Facebook. He's very active. Nick, do you want to give him your information?
I've started uploading a lot of my videos on YouTube as well, which is just Nicholas Giannasi, and Facebook is Nick Danbo Love. If I could just finish on a quick one.
Sure.
I've shared a lot of harmful information today, but honestly, guys, you are here for a reason. If you're listening to this, you're listening for a reason. We all don't want to look back and think that we were alive in this time and we never did anything. We never contributed to the greater good. We need to heal together. We need to care for one another. Love yourself, heal yourself, love your families, your communities, and the world. I love you all very much. Thank you, everyone at Radiate Up. You guys are inspirational. I love you all.
We love you as well, Nick.
Thank you. Love you.
Beautifully. Yes. Come together and join. This is how the world is going to move. How do you want to go down in history?
Yeah.
Which side do you want to be at? The loving side or the darker side? There's always the universal law of yin and yang. And we would like to radiate our love and light to the world. And this is what Radiate Up is all about. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nick. We love you. Until next week. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.